Hi, Molly.
Hello. Thank you for having me back. I'm so excited.
Oh, this is so fun. Congrats to you. You are one of the listeners' favorites. You know what I did to yeah, what
You
I
know
did.
why? Because it's about potty training, and potty training it is so incredibly popular. So
That's
popular.
true. It is popular. It is definitely a need that people have and a very, very common struggle for parents across the board, but especially parents in the disability community. But I think you're being humble, Molly Johnson, because you also are just so incredible. The way that you explain things to people, the content that you put in, kind of the way you wrap services around for folks is really great. Why don't we start off by letting you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Johnson, and I am an autism consultant. And what I do is I work with families in the online space to help their children with skill development, challenging behaviors, meltdowns, improve communication. And I work with parents in an online space inside my membership to help with all of that. And one of the most popular topics that I help parents with is potty training. That falls under the skill development category, but the way that I came into this role was through being a public school teacher. I was a self-contained special education teacher. I taught at both an elementary public school and in a middle school, and then I also taught in a private autism program as well. So that's kind of where I developed my love for autism. That was my first job, was at a private autism program, and then my classroom over the years, it kind of became the autism classroom. It kind of became the autism unit, and kids would be sent to me from the district, and I just loved it. I connected so well with those kids, and I learned along the way, keep it simple. These kids, they can still learn X, Y, and Z skills. They can still learn X, Y, and Z behaviors. We're just going to have to go a different route. We're going to have to take a different route to get there. And a lot of times it's about simplicity and keeping it simple. And I teach parents the same way. As if we can keep it simple, like, I don't have all the fluff. If you look at my potty training process that I have for parents, there's no fluff. There are no extra steps in there that are not needed. Like, the plastic floor potty, a lot of people use those. I'm like, no, that's not the end goal. That is an added step. That is something completely unnecessarily. Get that out of your plan. We're not using it. So I like to keep it simple, stick to the basics, and I'm excited to talk about potty training today because, as I said, it is very popular. It is one of the most common reasons why parents come and work with me, because they think, okay, this is going to be really hard. I don't even know if my child can do this. I've heard horror stories, and I'm like, "Don't worry, we'll get through it. It'll happen. Come on.
Ah, I love it.
Turn your
I
attitude
need,
around because I promise you it's going to happen."
that's right. That's right. I need as many people telling me don't worry as are possible in the world. So uh,
Yes.
I relate to that. Molly, your website, Instagram handle, all of that stuff is the autism consultant, right?
Correct. Very simple.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Facebook, Instagram. I have a podcast that's a completely free resource for parents. Just look up the autism consultant and you will find all of my stuff there. You have been a wonderful guest on my podcast, which, as I said, is a free resource. And there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of free episodes there. So if you're looking for more information, parents, go dive in. It's a good place to start.
Yay. I just like for people, when I hear somebody on a podcast, I'm like instantly going to follow them while also listening. So I like that at the beginning. Um, my one response to your little intro is, you know, I also think like there's so much value in in your kind of general methodology because we as parents, like we want all the things, you're going to Google like Down syndrome reading and autism potty training, and you're going to get on Amazon at some point and you're going to buy 18 things that you don't need.
Yes.
Now, I always tease, I've got books on my bookshelves that really just make me feel like a good mom that I've never cracked open. Um, and I think there's a funny story on Kelly Hampton's website, Enjoying the Small Things, where she talks about what her like kid that is not disabled, like throwing a book about behavior their kid that has Down syndrome.
The irony.
She's like, what about the irony? I mean, they were toddlers when this happened, but I'm like, yes, that's hilarious. Um, but I just think like life is so complicated for us and we can't give ourselves comfort by adding extra steps. And so I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the idea that you never have to have that plastic floor potty because that thing is disgusting altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that plus just anything, people go to Google first. Parents go to Google for everything, which I say that as a bad thing. And then I'm totally the parent who does it too. Like I Google stuff about my daughter all the time. But anyway, so parents, they come to me and they work with me and they'll tell me, okay, we've tried potty training. It didn't work. It was a disaster. And so then I say, okay, well, what did you do? And they'll tell me, oh, well, I went to Google and Google said, sit them on the toilet every 10 minutes. And I'm like, what? What a miserable day. You and your child are going to hate the toilet by the end of day one. And one of the reasons I know that is because when I was an autism teacher in an elementary school, I was potty training my students and I didn't have kids of my own. I'm just a young 20-something-year-old teacher at the time. And guess what? Where I went? I went to Google to figure out how to potty train my autistic students. And Google told me, sit them on the toilet every 5 or every 10 minutes. And so I was potty training multiple kids at once. I spent my entire day in the bathroom. And I'm like, this is miserable. Why would anybody do this? My students aren't learning anything. I am getting so fed up. I'm quitting tomorrow. We're done. And the parents do the same thing because who wants to spend the whole day in the bathroom? That's not natural. That's not normal. And if maybe your child is releasing every 10 minutes. If that's the case, we probably need to schedule a doctor's appointment with their physician because something medically is not right because that is not normal. It is not natural. And so that's not how I teach at all.
Yeah, that's why might need to have their prostates checked.
Which I will say, out of all the families I have helped potty train, there has been one family who they were telling me some stuff about how their child's responding and what's happening with their body. And I'm like, okay, we're going to pause and I want you to reach out to his pediatrician. I want you to book an appointment. This is not something's not functioning naturally. I can't touch. I'm not a doctor, but I want you to go talk to a doctor. And I can't even remember the name of this thing that was wrong with this little boy, but he had to have surgery because of it. And she would have never found it if we didn't work together. And I was like, something's not adding up. And then a month after surgery, she jumped back into potty trained and he was potty trained like that.
See, yeah. I have a few friends whose kids' plumbing was the problem and not, a human behavioral or problematic behavioral concern. So yeah, I mean, and that's the end all, right? Like if nothing else is working, then that's where you go. So, well, then my joke doesn't land about your prostate. I said then my joke about prostates doesn't land, because it really could be something.
I feel like you and my husband would get along with your jokes because he has the dad jokes for days.
Yeah.
Every time you say something, I'm like, you remind me of my husband.
That's me. And I think it's funny too. Well, then here comes my next joke that I used on you. I think we should just dive right in and talk about potty training.
I think let's get messy.
It's so gross. Do it. Like potty training isn't gross. That my joke was gross. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, friends, I should say to you first that Molly, this episode is in our 200th episode celebration. And so what I've done for you is I have brought back your most popular people, the people where my podcast numbers are the most and where my social media numbers are the most. And by and large, no, that's not what I want to say. Like overwhelmingly, you all loved Molly's episode. And so I'm going to put in the show notes the link to our first episode, our first interview with Molly, where we kind of talked generally about just potty training 101. We talked about the ebbs and flows. We talked about structure. We talked about general routine, impediments to potty training, that kind of stuff. So hop over there and listen. This is a continuation. And so the first thing that we're going to talk about, Molly, is visual supports around potty training. Visual supports can be so helpful across the board for all of us. what is particularly helpful with potty training? Where do we get it? How do we use it? Talk to us.
So I first want to start out by saying not every parent is aware, and some parents have no idea what visual supports are. So if you don't, go to my Instagram, the Autism Consultant, just scroll through and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I show so many examples, but there are a few different visual supports that I recommend during the process. And for me, the most important is a visual schedule. That is the one visual support that has the longest list of benefits. So, first, we have predictability. We are providing predictability with this visual support where we lay out the activities in order or the expectations in order that we are putting on this child and telling them, okay, this, and this has to be done in this order. So, when we provide predictability, we're lowering that anxiety. They're expecting it. There's no surprise, we're going to go sit on the toilet. They knew it was coming all along after this activity beforehand. So providing predictability really lowers anxiety and it makes that transition into the bathroom a lot smoother. A lot of autistic kids, they do struggle with transitions, moving from one activity or item to another, especially when we are moving on to a non-preferred activity. And for a lot of kids, going to sit on the toilet is non-preferred. There's nothing fun about that. We're not playing a game. So that visual schedule is definitely going to help. What it also does is it proves and shows this child that this doesn't last forever. This non-preferred activity does not last forever. We can see on the schedule, we get to move on to something else, often more preferred than sitting on the toilet. And that's really helpful for kids that are considered to be time blind. And what I mean by that is there are kids that and a lot of autistic kids are like that, like this, where they truly live in this one moment and they have a really hard time seeing past it. Like brushing your teeth, for instance. A lot of kids have a hard time with that because they live in this moment. They are time blind and they can't see past it. And, a parent will say, but we have never once stood in the bathroom brushing their teeth forever until the end of time. They know we move on. Well, yes, that's easy for you to say because you probably don't have executive functioning struggles like your autistic child. But for your child, it's very real and they live in this moment. So if we have a visual support present, something to refer back to, and remind them and prove to them that we get to move on, and that takes a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress off their shoulders. That helps tremendously. And also the visual schedule, when we put a bathroom break on there, it almost makes it more of a non-negotiable. It lowers that chance of having a power struggle with the parent because it's not necessarily the parent telling the child what we're about to do. It is this piece of paper. It is this laminated visual support. So they can't fight with the visual schedule. They can't have a power struggle with it. So we eliminate a lot of the power struggles. And then one of my favorite benefits is independence. At the end of the day, we have to remember that we have a population of children who they're pretty darn dependent on other adults in their life, and it makes them very vulnerable. It puts them potentially in a dangerous situation. So when you have to rely on an adult for everything, I think you're more vulnerable. You're more likely to get taken advantage of. So if we can work on independence and if we can teach a child to independently follow this routine, follow a schedule with this visual support, we lower that need to rely on another adult to tell you, do this. Okay, now do this. Okay, now it's time to move on to this. We have a visual support that's still supporting them, that's still prompting them, but they're a lot more independent than needing that adult right over their shoulder, telling them to constantly move on from one thing to another. Um, I can't tell you how many 3, 4, 5-year-old autistic children are independently taking themselves to the bathroom right now because of the visual schedule. And that is a beautiful thing. That's what we want. We don't want the adult to have such a presence in the potty training process once you get weeks into it. In the beginning, yes, the parent is doing a lot of work. I'm not going to pretend it's easy. It is parent heavy, this potty training process, but we should be getting to a point where we're working on independence and the visual schedule really, really helps. Now, I will point out a few things that I like to tell parents about making your visual schedule. I do recommend a real life picture of your child sitting on the toilet. I don't care about every other picture on there. They can all be those cartoon like clip art type of pictures, but for the toilet one, for the potty break one, I want a real life picture of your child. And this is going to do a few things. One, it's going to, when your child, when they see themselves in a picture sitting on the toilet, that is a reminder that they've done it before and they've been okay. They sat on that toilet before and everything was fine. It's proof that they've been successful in the past. It's also providing some consistency because I want you using the same bathroom every single time the first few weeks. And in that picture, they're seeing that one toilet in their bathroom. That consistency. I mean, people really don't give consistency the credit that it should. It's so easy to do the same thing over and over, and it has so many benefits. And often people don't follow consistency. So I will say, use the same bathroom, get that bathroom in a picture for their visual schedule. And then I will also say, I highly recommend using a visual schedule for a week or two before you start potty training. So that day one of potty training, you're not introducing the schedule, which is a brand new support, plus potty training. We want this to be a familiar support. If we really want it to work, your child needs to know what it is, how it works, what it looks like when we interact with it, and what. That was a
Yeah.
lot of information. I'm like pausing now, thinking, "Whoa, I probably just said way too much. I probably didn't keep it simple, like I said."
Well,
But
it's
that's kind of
simple.
my
I mean, I think it is simple. And like the one comment I was going to make was something that you just brought back up with the picture of the child. And I think in the case of potty training, especially, I would think that incorporating visuals also helps kids with the intangible. Like potty training's tangible, something comes out of you, but it is kind of a mystery because you might not be seeing it as it's happening. And that makes it intangible. And also that weird thing where like sometimes people are afraid of something coming off or out of their body, like
oh, yeah.
fingernails, that kind of thing, you know? So, but also the feelings, the interoceptive part of this. To feel the urge to go to the bathroom is a developed skill for some people. Then I would think that that visual schedule makes it like would eventually tie in that urge or routine to the actual act of releasing, right? Relieving, is that what you say? Relieving?
Well, releasing or relieving yourselves, yeah. So and to get a little deeper into this, yes. So the way that I have my clients set up their visual schedule is I'm very particular about when their child sits on the toilet. And so, I said I don't agree with sitting every 5 to 10 minutes. And then someone might ask, well, how often should my child be sitting? I can't answer that. I don't know how your child's bladder works. I don't know how much it can hold. Everybody's bladder is different. You can maybe hold more than I can, and you can maybe go longer throughout the day and have fewer bathroom breaks. So I actually have a period of time where I have parents do like a series of steps where they're taking data, where they're gathering information, and they're very intentionally building this type of schedule where they're sitting their child on the toilet with when their child is full, when their child has to go. Because using the bathroom, teaching your child to use the bathroom, it's all about creating a new pattern of behavior. That's all potty training is. Their current pattern of behavior is they have to pee, they just pee in their pull up. That's it. We have to break that pattern and teach them to respond by going to sit on the toilet. But if we don't have their schedule, um, sh- pick, I don't know what I'm trying to say,
Nailed
nailed
that.
down
Yeah.
before we start. We're setting them at random times, and you might be sitting your child down on the toilet when they don't have to go, so they're not going to go. If there's no urine in there, they're not peeing for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
can I go down the rabbit hole a little more? I'm so sorry.
Uh-huh.
Going off topic. Okay, so going even more on that, if you're sitting your child on the toilet when they don't have to go, they're not going to go. One thing that a lot of families do is they will see their child had an accident and they immediately go sit them on the toilet. I'm like, why? They're not going to pee. They just peed. We only sit on the toilet for two reasons, to pee and poop. And if we know they don't have to pee, now the toilet's random. No, no. I get you have totally good intentions behind it. But that's another Google strategy because Google said so, and Google
Yeah.
is wrong. If there's nothing in there, they're not going to go. If
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
all over the floor, there's nothing else coming out.
Totally. That totally makes sense. I love that. So that kind of tackles a lot of barriers. Another barrier that I hear a lot in IEP meetings and from families that I work with, and frankly, friends is, well, I'm having a hard time like getting started on potty training because my child can't communicate. They can't tell me if they have to go. And, I was of the opinion, both of my kids stood up in the bathtub and I was like, and peed and like, we're like, oh, look at that. And I was like, okay, so they must know what's happening. And so then I just started putting them on the potty. And with Griffin, I always say I thought it was the best mom in the world because I put him on the potty and he would go potty. And I was like, oh, this is easy. Why do people complain? And then I got Jack, and it still was world better than it is for a lot of people. But of course, it was not as fluid. And oh, there's another joke. It was not as fluid.
I didn't even catch that one.
I said that funny. Okay. Um, but I didn't care that he couldn't communicate, that he couldn't say, I have to go to the bathroom or really even potty. I think we probably worked on the sign, but we didn't use it very long because I don't even remember what our sign was. So can we talk a second about communication as a barrier to potty training?
This is the number one misconception that I hear about potty training autistic children is that if they are not speaking, they can't potty train. I don't know who made this up. I don't know who told parents this, but it is out there and it is terrifying to parents and it's a roadblock. They're not getting started on potty training because their child's not speaking yet. And so, sometimes there are parents with an 8-year-old child, they're thinking, well, I had the impression that he couldn't potty train. I'm like, half the parents I work with, they have non-speaking children and they get potty trained. So it is possible. And you do not need verbal communication in order to use the toilet. Verbal speech has nothing to do with me relieving myself on the toilet. It has nothing to do with you relieving yourself on the toilet. Um, do we want a child to communicate? Absolutely. But there are other forms of communication. And like I said earlier, potty training is all about a pattern of behaviors. I'm going to teach you how to look for your child's behaviors, not their words. Never once has a non-speaking child, never once has the inability to speak been in the way of potty training progress in all of the years that I've helped parents. I mean, I always wonder, like, who put this out there? Like, years and years ago, somebody did. Somebody started this rumor that is just spread wild among parents, and it's false. Now, I think we should make communication a priority. I think we should think about, okay, how do I eventually want this child communicating to me that they need to go? So you need to have a plan, whether that's a visual support, sign language, your AAC device. But I would really recommend not letting that be what's holding your child back from learning that skill because verbal speech has zero to do with potty training and using the toilet.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the comment about independence. So it's really the communication part is really about independence, which is another skill that you can develop, but it is not parallel to the actual act of learning to go to the bathroom when you have the urge to go to the bathroom and actually going, right?
And I want to point out that so when I potty train or when I help parents potty train their child, I have a 3-stage process. Stage 1, they're doing certain things. Stage 2 is when they're actually sitting their child on the toilet. And stage 3, that's when I have parents work on communication, initiation, and potty training throughout the night. Stage 2, when they're sitting their child on the toilet, it's all about following the parent's lead and it has nothing to do with the child communicating. And parents all the time that I work with, they'll tell me, okay, we're in stage 2, like things are going well. They're following my lead, but he still won't tell me when he has to go. And I'm like, well, you're not in stage 3. You haven't graduated. Don't worry about that yet. Because potty training, it is a series of smaller skills. It is a lot of smaller skills jumbled into this word potty training. And I want to make it as easy as possible for your child. I don't want to work on, interoception and being aware of what's going on in my body and responding to that and these new sensations of sitting on the toilet and then working on controlling my bladder and releasing and communication and initiation and wiping and washing my hands and pulling up my pants and buttoning my pants. That's a lot of skills in potty training. So I make it as simple as possible on the child when they're learning the skill and I'm having them only rely on the parent prompting them and the parent leading them to the bathroom. And I tell my families, once you see about 4-ish days of no accidents where you are the leader, your child is following your lead, you see 4 days with no accidents, then we can move on and work on communication. But when we throw all these skills at a child all at once, they're going to freeze up. And it's going to be information overload. It's going to look like refusal when it's really just overwhelm. It is really, you are asking me to learn all of these skills at once. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too much. So I'm shutting down, I'm freezing, I'm doing nothing. And it might look like protest, refusal, or it might look like I can't learn. And that's not true. It's usually that we're just throwing too much at them.
So I totally love that. And that what you just said there is one of the most incredible lessons that Jack Barlow has taught me, because he still sometimes he can totally get dressed and undressed, right? But if you're here because you are a fan of Molly's, my kid has Down syndrome. That's an important thing here. But he can do that, but sometimes those skills aren't super accessible to him because of 1,000 different reasons. And so I have learned that sometimes I have to carve the pathway for him by way of accommodations and modifications, if we're talking school language, in order to get the main goal done. So if the main goal is going to the bathroom, because, in our house, you go to the bathroom before you go on any kind of significant outing, or going to the bathroom because you haven't gone in 6 hours and you think you're too busy to go, whatever the reason is, my goal is to go to the bathroom. I can help you with your pants. I can prompt you to wash your hands. I can tell you that you have to go. I can do those things to remove those barriers so that then you can just go to the bathroom.
The goal is for that pee and poop to make it in the toilet. I was just having a similar conversation the other day with one of my clients because she was talking about her son just cannot stand the sound of the toilet flushing, and he cannot stand to see his stuff going down and leaving. And she was wondering, it's causing a lot of issues. Like, should we pause? Should we take a pause and come back to potty training later? And I said, the goal of potty training is not to flush the toilet. Like, we've all been in a public restroom before where we walk in and pees in the toilet. Like, is it the end of the world? No. Is it a little gross? A little bit. Yeah, but it's not the end of the world. And I'm so much happier that that person peed in the toilet than had an accident sitting right next to me in the movie theater, So that's not the goal. Is the flushing of the toilet's not the goal. So I'd much rather maybe his step after wiping is just shutting the lid. Maybe that's his next step and he walks out. And then you have to, put one more thing on mom's to-do list, unfortunately. But then maybe that's your job to go in and flush it, because what a shame it would be to not teach him how to relieve himself independently in the toilet, all because of this one sensory difference that we can avoid. Like, flushing doesn't matter at the end of the day. I'd much rather him successfully and independently use the toilet and then get held up on flushing and then never learn to use the toilet independently.
And never mind the gifts that we get as caregivers and watching life get stripped down to such simple steps. I mean, it's really rare to think about all that you do to sit in a chair and have a conversation or to go to the bathroom. I never thought about the fine motor component. I never thought about how important it is to be able to feel your body in order to wipe. Like, I never, I think I taught my big kid, like, well, you do this, and if it's dirty, you do it again. And that was the end of it. And to me, it is such a gift to see life in such, as you say, such simple terms. It just makes it makes me appreciate my kid and my clients and all humans so much more. And this is totally an example of how the smallest little things in life can bring the most amazing epiphanies.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all goes back to keeping it simple. If we don't keep it simple, we're going to lose them. Like, keep it simple.
Yeah, I love it. So last question, we're about school here. And so this question is about school collaboration. I do have one kind of subset that I'd like for you to talk about. And so really though, like what skills can people, do people need to develop in order to collaborate with their schools on potty training? As a subset, I would love for you to touch on when people want to go to private preschools and they say that they can't go because of potty training. Any tips and ideas for that? Um, kind of considering the fact that like they really aren't mandated to do much because they probably like assume that they aren't mandated to do much by law. What do
At
you
first,
got?
I want to say, you know what's wild? You just said private school has those rules. You would be shocked at how many public schools will say, your autistic child who is in special education with an IEP cannot come and attend school until they are potty trained and out of diapers. Insane. I was a public school teacher. Like, we were not allowed to say that. Like, who
No.
is saying this and why and how are they getting away with this? So, first of all, there's a lot of pressure on parents that shouldn't have all of this pressure on them. I think that's wild. I think that's so incredibly wrong. I don't think we should rush parents into it. So I just want to throw that out there. If you are in that situation, I am so incredibly sorry. I don't know how your school district is saying that or getting away with it, but it's happening all the time in public school.
And this is not legal advice because I only practice law in the state of Kentucky. However, you should probably contact an attorney. And I would think that that would be something that an attorney could research and write a letter about in a very short amount of time and not spend a ton of money.
It is insane how many parents feel that. And every time my jaw is like on the floor when I hear this.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Yes. But I also want to point out in the first question, I don't even remember exactly what the question was, but you brought up collaboration. So when your child is going to school, that's the most important part here is collaboration with that teacher. So if you don't have a great relationship, I would say first we need to work on that relationship between the parent and the teacher because we're going to be asking that teacher to do some extra steps, to do something different with this child and they need to be open to it. You know, they need to be receptive to it. We need to have a good relationship with them if we're asking them to do one extra thing in the classroom when their list of to-dos is already so long. So a positive, great interact back and forth collaboration or relationship, that's number one. Now, I would say I also do like parents to potty train for a few days at home before going to school. So a long weekend, that's amazing. If you have a 3-day weekend, I would go hard 1, 2, 3 days and then send them to school on Monday and communicate to the teacher, hey, this is exactly what we're doing at home. Can you mimic that plan at school? And if you can't, how close can we get to that plan? You know, let's collaborate, let's talk back and forth. Every visual support that you're using at home, I would send it to school. If you're using a reward at home, I would send it to school if the teacher allows it, but everything needs to be as close um, to what you're doing at home as possible. I will also say that if we have a child who is in underwear at home, but then in pull-ups at school, and the school is refusing, that is going to significantly slow down your progress, because we are sending two different messages to the child. At home, we're saying you need to be in underwear, and at school, we're saying no, you need to be in pull-ups and pee and poop whenever you want, wherever you want. The circumstances don't matter. Do what you want. So if your teacher is not on board and if they're not going to help at all, I would say you're going to be in a situation where you probably need to wait for winter break, for spring break, any longer break than because you're probably not going to be fully potty trained with no accidents in 3 days. But I would really recommend against doing two different things, where they're in underwear at home and pull-ups at school. I see it all the
And
time.
vice versa. I see it the opposite too, where school went to work on it. And then I go to a meeting and I realize that my clients haven't been working on potty training. I almost see that more often. And I'm like, well, you have to support the structure here. And, listen to our previous episode, the structure and the consistency is so important. You've got to work on it as school's ready to work on it. And school has a really good handle on the social implications and the independence implications and readiness, because they've done this for a lot of other kids and that kind of stuff. So like, pay attention to that too, by the way.
Yeah, and if your child's teacher is willing to potty train and work on it at school, you are in such a beautiful situation, because there are a lot of teachers that are like, nope, not doing it. That's not part of my job, which also blows my mind because, as you know, just think back as a self-contained special education teacher, I cannot even imagine telling, I don't even know if it's legal to tell a parent, no, I'm not going to do XYZ independent life living functional skill here at school. It's just wild to me. So if your school is doing it, you are in a beautiful position. Take advantage of having that support system. They've made progress, obviously, doing something. Talk to them, collaborate, see if they can help you with giving you advice on how they did it at school, and you can do that same thing at home.
Yeah. I mean, I completely reiterate that. And I think you hit the like structure of what happens with the school and then communicate, right? Like, I mean, I say that here all the time, but it's a process, it's a progress. And for example, if you have joined Molly's program and you've got like her 1, 2, 3 steps, share that, share a gist of it, share the visuals, share the information, and then share the progress. So I think we're ready to move on to stage 3. Are you seeing that? Remember, here's what you need for stage 3. Like build them the bridge to collaborate with you so that you've got the consistency for your child. Like this is honestly, this is a really beautiful way to start that collaboration with school because it is really important and it's like fairly simple. It's not like you're tackling this big, you know, behavior or something that can be stickier. Potty training it's sticky, but it's still fairly simplistic, not easy, but simplistic is the word I'm looking.
Yeah, and going back to that collaboration, I have clients all the time that, they're watching all of my videos on potty training of me telling them exactly what to do, and they'll ask me, they'll say, "Okay, do you have a handout for me to hand over to school, give to their school team?" And I tell them, "No." And I very purposely do not provide a handout for you that outlines step by step because I want you to have that old-fashioned face-to-face communication with that teacher. And I want you explaining every step that you're doing at home because when we have that face-to-face conversation, and if you can't do face-to-face, pick up the phone, have a phone call, but that teacher now has the chance to ask questions, get clarity. If we just give them a handout, guess what? As a former special ed teacher, desk was horrendous, full of paperwork, and things very easily got lost. And sometimes special ed teachers see so much paperwork that they look at something and they just glance through it so fast without really soaking in the information and reading every single word. But if that teacher has 20 minutes set aside to speak to you, to have that verbal back and forth conversation, they're going to be able to soak up every word, be present, pay attention, and they have the opportunity to ask questions. So every
Yeah.
time a parent asks me that, I'm like, no, I do not have a handout. And it's very intentional because your teacher might read.
You're the real deal, Molly Johnson. I love that. Oops, it finally happened. Everybody, I'm have moved my if you're watching on YouTube, I just took a dive. My camera has moved. Molly, here, I'll just duck. You are amazing. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Everybody, check out Molly over at the Autism Consultant podcast, social media, website, Teachers Pay Teachers. Molly's membership. Oh, you're not on TPT. Molly's website has so many resources, including this membership. Molly, thank you.
Thank you. And I am so incredibly excited for all of the parents who are ready to go out and potty train. And I just want you to know that all of the myths out there, all of those bad horror stories, don't listen to them. That is all of it. It's a bunch of talk. It's a bunch of mess that we don't need to pay attention to. Your child is so capable of learning this new skill. And I'm so excited for you to help them develop that skill and develop that independence because once they gain that independence, it is the most beautiful thing to witness that in a child. So I'm looking forward to you all successfully potty training your child.
You're the best. Thank you.